All right, hello everybody. This is Joseph P. Farrell on Thursday, December 5th, 2013, with news and views from Nefarium. I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving and that you're all recovering from the festivities. And for those of you overseas, I hope you had a pleasant week too. This has been a very, very weird week for news. I've pre-scheduled about 3 weeks worth of blogs, actually. So the blogs up until about December 20th, I actually have blogged in the last 3 days. The reason for that is that there's been so much coming that you're sending me in articles and so on, and comments and emails, that I had to schedule things out for a long period in advance. But in the process, there's been a lot of news that slips through the cracks, and this is always the hardest part about this, is selecting what to talk about. This one I've got to talk about because a lot of you have pointed out in what you're sending me odd little bits of news, and I mean very odd bits of news concerning space, and this may be one of the oddest. And it is coming at a time that it fell off the radar screen. So I want to talk about this. This is an article from, I don't know if you can see it, The Black Vault. And I'll post the link for you because it's a very short article. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to comment on what may be going on. And again, please understand, I'm indulging in my usual high-octane speculation. The article concerns the British computer hacker Gary McKinnon. Now, for those of you who don't remember who he was, this is a fellow that back in the early part of the millennium, the early part of this century, hacked into U.S. government computers, and particularly those of NASA and the Pentagon. And in them, he found what he has consistently maintained was evidence of a secret space program. We're going to get to that in the article. The USA immediately, of course, filed for this man to be extradited to the United States to stand trial, where he could have gone to prison for the rest of his life. So we get to the article, and here it is. Quote, on Tuesday, November 16th, British hacker Gary McKinnon finally won his decade-long battle to avoid extradition to the U.S. to face charges of hacking into the computer systems of NASA, the Pentagon, and other government agencies. McKinnon claimed to have found photographs, film, and other evidence of alien spacecraft secretly held by various U.S. government agencies. In deciding to block the U.S. extradition efforts, British Home Secretary Theresa May said that she decided in favor of McKinnon, quote, after medical experts concluded he was seriously ill and likely to attempt to take his own life. While McKinnon still risks prosecution by British authorities, it's unlikely that further action will be taken against him. Will McKinnon reveal more about what the U.S. government knows about UFOs and extraterrestrial life now that he no longer faces extradition? McKinnon first hacked into NASA's Johnson Space Center and said, quote, he found a high-definition picture of a large cigar object over the northern hemisphere. He said that he was so shocked by the picture that he didn't think immediately to save it. He also said the file size was so large and it's difficult to view it on his computer. Eventually, his connection was lost, and so was the computer, unquote. Now the article continues. McKinnon later hacked into classified files of U.S. Space Command, incorporated into the Strategic Command on October the 1st, 2002. Soon after McKinnon was caught, he discovered a number of naval terms such as fleet-to-fleet transfers concerning non-terrestrial officers. He said, quote, I found a list of officers' names under the heading non-terrestrial officers. It doesn't mean little green men. What I think it means is it's not Earth-based. I found a list of fleet-to-fleet transfers and a list of ship names. I looked them up. They weren't U.S. Navy ships. What I saw made me believe they have some kind of spaceship off-planet, unquote. McKinnon's startling discovery cast light on what had been earlier revealed by no less than a former president of the United States, Ronald Reagan. In President Reagan's diary, the entry for Tuesday, June 11th, 1985, page 334, reads, quote, "Lunch with 5 top space scientists. It was fascinating. Space is truly the last frontier, and some of the developments there in astronomy, etc., are like science fiction, except they are real. I learned that our shuttle capacity is such that we could orbit 300 people," unquote. Now, I want you to stop and ponder that statement alone. That is actual fact. Reagan did actually say that. And somehow that statement made it past the censors. We'll get back to that point in a moment. But if true, this means that at that time in 1985, the actual ability of the United States to put people into orbit was vastly beyond the publicly known space shuttle fleet capacity. That's the real point here. You'd have to have several space shuttles, not just 5 or 6, to have that kind of capacity. So Reagan, if true, is intimating that there is a hidden space program, and it's rather large. All right, let me continue. Reagan's comment was revealing since the recently retired space shuttle had a maximum of 8 people and only 5 were built for space flight. Even if all 5 took off fully loaded, it would be impossible to place and maintain 300 astronauts in orbit. There you are. Was Reagan revealing the existence of a highly classified space program that could accommodate hundreds of astronauts in orbit? Apparently so, according to dozens of military and corporate whistleblowers. Hidden within one of the 9 unified combatant commands in the U.S. military, as McKinnon later discovered, appeared to be a highly classified fleet of aircraft carrier-sized ships that operate in outer space. Now, McKinnon no longer faces the threat of extradition and is unlikely to be prosecuted by British authorities. He may be able to reveal, and this is the main point of the article, and it's also the main focus of my comments. He may be able to reveal more about what he learned from sensitive U.S. military and government computer files about UFOs and extraterrestrial life. All right. Now, that's the article. Now comes the high-octane speculation. What would happen if you wanted gradually to reveal something about a secret space program that you've had going for a number of years? Or, on the other hand, how would you go about creating an absolutely impeccable witness to obfuscate or muddy the waters? Well, essentially, my point is, either way you would attempt to do this, you would, or whatever your goal was, I should say, you would do essentially the same thing. And the way you would do that is to create a credibility in an alleged witness that few others have. Now, let's look at McKinnon's case. I'm not saying he didn't do what he claims to have done, and I'm not saying that he didn't see what he claims to have seen. But if it weren't for the fact that he was prosecuted for nearly a decade, or an attempt was made to prosecute and extradite him for nearly a decade, his standing as a witness would have been much lower. It would have been very similar to all the other whistleblowers out there that we've seen emerge telling stories without much documentation. All right? So in other words, by prosecuting him and then suddenly calling an end to it, his standing as a witness is now very, very high. Now, it remains to be seen if Mr. McKinnon will come forward and write anything or give any interviews about the whole experience, and if in those interviews he's coming up with more details about the story, then I think we need to be a little cautious about what's going on. On the other hand, if Mr. McKinnon now reveals that he has kept some information, that he did indeed somehow record what he saw and kept it secret, that might be a game changer, because with that and high credibility more or less established, he could, in fact, argue rather plausibly for a secret space fleet. Now, the real problem in all of this, and I hope you caught it, is that the Reagan diaries themselves are something that either slipped past the censor, or a statement was allowed, just in passing, a short little statement was allowed to leak out because it could have been itself part of a deliberate psyop. Who better than to create an image or impression in the world, particularly amongst the USA's enemies, that there may be a hidden technological capability that none of them know about, other than quote-unquote Mr. Conservative, President Reagan himself. This is the man, incidentally, that was also talking about space defense, the Strategic Defense Initiative, the Star Wars concept, supposedly, and also made several statements during both of his administrations about the existence or possible threat to planet Earth from UFOs or somebody else off this planet. So in other words, when Reagan makes a statement like this, it's in a much wider context that could give it some weight. So in other words, space is back in the news. This story kind of slid under the radar. But I want you to watch now for what Mr. McKinnon may now do over the next couple of years and what he may say, and bear these two possibilities in mind. They have three possibilities. Number one, he is who he is and is saying the truth as far as he knows it or saw it. Or two, he is someone that was created or persecuted to give the idea that his character and his statements need attention, all right? And that could either be for drawing purpose to what he now will say in support of his secret space fleet, or for the purpose of obfuscating the discussion on UFOs, technologies, extraterrestrials, and so on, even more. So an important little story, folks, that fell off the radar, and I wanted to get it out there to you because I think we're going to be hearing, personally, my guess, we're going to be hearing more from Mr. McKinnon. Anyway, there will be a couple more news and views from the Nefarium prior to the Christmas break. We do have a members vid chat coming up next week on Friday, and then another one this month during the Christmas holiday, which I haven't decided whether or not I will keep on the schedule or not. Holidays, that's time for everyone to be with their families. So keep watching the Facebook page on that one, but we do have another vid chat coming up next Friday on December 13th. That's it for news and views from the Nefarium, folks. I'll see everybody on the flip side, and God bless.